Welcome to the JRPG Canon, the ongoing project to document the first slice of a JRPG, talk about why it works and what's fun about these games that we love so much. If you want a better intro to the purpose and idea behind the series, go check out the first 2 episodes on Final Fantasy and Dragon Quest, then come back to this one. I'm Sam Allman, and today we'll be covering Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. And joining me this week is host of the little-known podcast RPG Book Club. Hi, Trish.
Hi, I'm Trish.
So Trish, what was your history with Super Mario RPG or just Mario RPGs in general? If you haven't actually played this before, I told you to play.
Oh, I have. So when I was a kid, the 64 was my first console that I ever owned, and the marketing for Paper Mario hooked me so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically, I remember there was a magazine ad that just showed Bowser's castle in space, and there was some kind of web animation thing that also caught my attention. Anyway, I rented the game over every single Friday when we got to go rent movies and games. I went and rented Paper Mario every single week, even though renting the game means your save files are probably not going to be there when you get it the next week.
Yeah,
every time
we rented Paper Mario, I was I would go to the cashier. I'm like, we're going to be checking this one back out. Hold on to this. We're going to go pick up a movie, and then we're going to come and get this one. I need this one. It has my save file on it.
So that happened, and then because Mario was kind of my first fandom as a kid. And I still love Mario dearly. And there was a website in my early coving the website times that was called the Super Mario Bros. Monster Compendium, is I think what it was called. And it was just a website where someone was just documenting information about every Mario enemy and every appearance by every Mario enemy in every Mario game. And so when I went on this website and I saw a lot of entries from things from a game called Super Mario RPG, and those things didn't look like Mario enemies. They were bizarre and didn't fit the theme at all, and I was so confused by them. And so eventually I was able to play the game, and then I was like, oh, this is pretty neat, but I definitely like Paper Mario more. And that's basically my feelings to this day of Super Mario RPG. It's a really neat game. I get why a lot of people have deep affection for it in their hearts. I just like the Mario Party 1 and 2 a lot better. Not Mario Party, Paper Mario.
Paper Mario, for sure. Yeah,
not MP.
I also completely missed the boat on this game. I never even had really heard of it until shockingly late in life. I had played Paper Mario, but I didn't even know there was a game like it on the Super NES. I did not find a fan site that told me it existed. Even during my emulation heyday in high school, I had a flash drive that had ZSNES on it and the complete set of Super Nintendo ROMs. And so every class I would go to, I would just stick it in there and I would play Super Nintendo games instead of.
Oh gosh. Back in high school, I would literally finish my assignment in a computer lab and then download NES-topia and Mega Man 1 or Punch Out, because you could do that in 5 seconds even on the internet back then. And now you can just play a video game.
Yeah, it was wonderful. But even back then, I didn't know that this game existed. It just completely missed my radar. And then it was in college that I had heard about it through the grapevine somewhere. And then about a month after I had learned it existed, I went to Special Effects Games in Waco in the mall, and they had a copy of Super Mario RPG for only $35. So I picked it up and played through half of it on the CRT in my dorm room. And I remember not a lot from it. I remember liking it, but not wanting to finish it and wishing that it was Paper Mario instead, which will probably be a theme throughout this episode. But
just a bit.
So yeah, we are going to listen to some wonderful music by Yoko Shimomura and then talk about the history of this game as best we can. Okay, so full disclosure, when we as we go through this, take everything I say with a grain of salt. I found a couple really good sources on my own, but normally what I do is I go to Wikipedia, find their sources then from there find sources like based on that. Like I try to find something in the Japanese and then translate it myself or something like that. The Wikipedia page all cites this Nintendo Power issue 77. The article is called Epic News. Mario plays a new role in Super Mario RPG, and they all list page numbers, and they all everything. The Internet Archive has given us every Nintendo Power for free, so I looked that up because a couple episodes that talked about, they only talk about GamePro, and I have no idea if they're accurate to it because it's a print source that they have, and the things out of print, not online, so I don't know. But Nintendo Power, thanks to Frank Cifaldi, we have all of them. So I just went and looked it up. And none of the shit that they cite from this article happens in this article. Some of it I did find in other things, and so maybe they just like wrote their wrong things, but there's a chance that most of this is made up. So if I say something and it's not real, it's because I couldn't find any good sources, but I tried my damnedest to be at least mostly accurate. But don't lie on Wikipedia. It's we all told our teachers
it's a crime.
We all told our teachers they were overreacting when they told us that people could lie on Wikipedia. So don't make me a liar by you lying on Wikipedia.
It would be very sad if you did that, and I wouldn't care for it.
Yes. So the year is 1993. Shigeru Miyamoto is a weirdo and he must be stopped. RPGs are king on the Super Nintendo. And you could change the date I picked from 1993 to any year. Shigeru Miyamoto is a weirdo and he must be stopped.
Considering what he's done in the Paper Mario franchise, you're correct.
So RPGs are king on the Super Nintendo. Everybody loves RPGs in Japan, and Miyamoto wants a slice of that pie. So he wants a Mario RPG, which, if you don't remember, the Mario games that had come out at the time, they basically have no story or lore or extra characters in them at all. It's just Mario, Peach, Toad, and Bowser. Not a lot to build a whole RPG out of. So this was definitely a weird pet project that Miyamoto had at the time. Meanwhile, Squaresoft in the late Super NES era were weirdos who must be stopped. They had basically made every kind of RPG that they could think of, and over in the West, only weebs cared. And even then, only half of the weebs, because I personally hadn't heard of Final Fantasy VI, despite owning a Super Nintendo at the time that Final Fantasy III came out over here. And I'm a huge weeb and a huge RPG nerd, and I didn't even know about Final Fantasy III. So Square really wanted to break into the Western market even further with RPGs. So they mixed their chocolate with some of Miyamoto's peanut butter, and development began in 1994. They spent about a year hammering out what the fuck is a Mario RPG. It's not quite like any Square RPG, and it's not quite like any Mario game. Both sides adapted their formula to fit the other, and once the basic system was decided on, development began in earnest in about 1995. The director of the game, Chihiro Fujioka, he was the famed creator of Earthbound, not Mother 2, Earthbound, the 1983 adventure game for the NEC PC 6001, obviously. But more relevant to this discussion, he was the writer for Final Fantasy Mystic Quest and the producer of Final Fantasy Legend, aka Saga 3. He would later go on to found Alpha Dream, who made Tomato Adventure that was so good that they were like, hey, do you want to make the Mario and Luigi series? And the creator of Super Mario RPG said, yes, I would like to have my old job back. Thank you. Miyamoto himself was heavily involved in the game, mostly overseeing the graphics and approving like what the Mushroom Kingdom would look like in 3D.
So it's Miyamoto's fault that nothing in this game looks like a Mario character.
Yeah, surprisingly, he like approved all of the designs and none of them are good. But also around this time, this is when we got the Mario Land 2, the 6 golden coins, you don't fight a single Koopa or Goomba in that entire game. It's all weird shit too. So I think he just wanted Mario to be weird for a little bit. The graphics themselves were modeled by Shinya Takahashi. You might know him as the guy that does the Nintendo Directs now that Iwata isn't with us anymore. He's the general manager of the Entertainment Planning and Development Division at Nintendo, which is their largest branch of operations. He's a very important guy, and he modeled all of the CG for this game. So the game went through a bunch of drastic changes during development. In Nintendo Power issue 77, the one I talked about earlier, the game that the article describes is wholly unlike what we end up getting. They talk about how it's more of an action game. They say it's probably an action adventure game. It's kind of weird that they call it RPG because you run around and you jump on things, and it's a lot more action based than an RPG, which is not what this one is, being a turn-based RPG that we ended up getting. I then found an interview with Fujioka that was translated by Shmuplations. Shoutouts to them. They are a huge resource for this sub podcast. That interview took place when the game was about 60% completed, and it mentions that they were stuck on the idea that RPGs meant weapons, so they had trouble making Mario not feel just like a Final Fantasy sprite swap. And it was after losing the idea of having weapons at all and thinking completely out of the box did the game start to come together. The Wikipedia article says that they turned in a build of the game to Miyamoto where Mario had a sword, and Miyamoto's like, this fucking sucks, don't do this. But that one cites this Nintendo Power article, which definitely doesn't say that. So no idea if that's real or not, but it would be cool if it was. So in that interview, Fujioka says, the title has RPG in it, but should it be an action RPG, a turn-based RPG, or something else? Our answer was, it's a Mario RPG, which means an RPG featuring things that only Mario could do, jumping, dashing, and so forth. They even at one point wanted Mario to get bigger and smaller with power mushrooms, like you do in the platformer games, and have that play into like the dungeon design of the game. But the engine limitations made it hard to make the levels make sense as a big old Mario stomping around, so that part got scrapped. Shmuplations also translated a small excerpt from the game's composer, Yoko Shimomura, who says that this game was the turning point of her career. Her first video game she ever played was Super Mario Brothers, so this was the first game where she didn't like have imposter syndrome and be like, okay, I have to do the thing that fits what they want me to do. She was like, I know Mario, so I just let it rip and made the coolest music I could think of that matches the energy of whatever Mario was doing. And she succeeded, fam. So let's listen to some of that cool ass music, and then we'll talk about the slice of game that we're playing today. Okay, so you boot up the game and look at its dope-ass title screen, which has Bowser's Castle with a giant sword sticking out of it. You put in your name on your save file and you're off. In the Japanese release, the game doesn't have the sword sticking into it until you get to that part because they wanted to trick everyone into thinking Bowser was the final boss. And I think that's cool. Didn't happen in the US release, but I think that's cute in the Japanese version that you don't get the giant sword in it. So the game starts out with a quaint but cool little diorama-ish scene of Peach sitting in a meadow smelling some flowers when suddenly the sky goes black. It's Bowser flying in, and he's here to capture Peach for the umpteenth time. Thankfully, she was sitting in the flowers outside of Mario's house, so he was nearby, and he's hot on the tail of Bowser, and he chases him into the castle. Once inside the castle, we can control Mario, but before we get into that, I want to talk about these graphics. The graphics kind of suck.
A bit.
At the time they were insanely good looking. The game is isometric pre-rendered 3D perspective, and all of the characters have that same Silicon Graphics 3D modeling rasterized vibe that Donkey Kong Country has. But all of the sprites are way smaller, so the detail is completely crushed and hard to read. It's better on a CRT if you can play on one, but it's definitely one of the best examples of the cutting edge is the shit that doesn't hold up years down the line. And I can tell that I would have been blown away playing this in 1995, but I'm not playing it in 1995, and it is very hard to tell what anything is. Most of the bosses, couldn't even draw you what the bosses look like because it's just a vaguely sword-shaped jumble of pixels.
If I knew how to draw, I could draw Croco, if only because he's just a purple alligator in a hat.
Yeah, and that's about it. Every single review that I could find of this game lost their entire shit about how good the graphics were, which is valid for it being 1995. But I'm from the future. I'm from the future, so they don't hold up that much to me.
We're for the future, which means we're correct.
We're correct. So gaining control of Mario, we can run ahead and do a couple tutorial fights, except there isn't a tutorial on the actual tutorial fights of the game. This game tutorializes in the Mario way, where it's completely safe and risk-free to learn the ins and outs by trial and error. You kill the mobs in one hit and they deal 1 damage to you. There are less than 20 of them. So if you fail, and that's your starting HP, it's real hard to die here. So you can just kind of press buttons and figure out what they do. I've often heard that people talk about Super Mario RPG as baby's first RPG, and it really and truly is, but in the Nintendo way that simple doesn't mean bad for its game design. And
agreed.
It's pretty cool. The battle menu is one of these ways that it makes it easy to be your first RPG. Recently, like since Persona 5, a lot of RPGs do this, but Mario RPG was the trailblazer. Each of your menu commands are mapped to a face button, so you don't have to fumble around in a menu and be overwhelmed with options to do the thing you want. You just press the button on your screen and see what it does, which is really, really good. The only thing that sucks about it, and this is again just from a modern perspective, is that you also use that button to confirm in the menus afterwards, which takes some getting used to, because so many times I would press special attack to go and jump, and then I would select jump with the A button and I would go to attack because attack is on the A button, and it's a little weird to get used to. But as you continue along through this castle, the level design is a really tasty treat. They took the color palette and vibes of a Mario castle level and expanded it into 3 dimensions and treated it more as if it was a real place. So there's chains and statues and mesh windows and a drawbridge that collapses into lava. There's fireballs going everywhere. All of the things that we come to dread every 4 levels in a Mario game are here, and it's very cool. Even the final door of this place is the red boss door from Super Mario World. It's a really nice touch. When you pass through the store, Peach is nowhere to be seen, but then Mario looks up to the chandeliers, and there she is, tied up and hanging from the rafters. Bowser is up there with her, and he laughs at Mario, so Mario jumps up onto the chandeliers to do battle with his old nemesis. It's here that we see a cute sign of the times. Peach is called Princess Toadstool in this game, because before Super Mario 64, that was her official name. So when Ted Woolsey translated this game, he gave her the name Toadstool, and it sticks out every time they talk about it, because I'm like, who the hell is that? Because my first Mario game that I truly actually played was Mario 64.
See, I played Mario Bros. 3 and original Mario Bros. Before this by a long shot. Super Mario Bros. Super Show, where they also call her Toadstool in that.
Yeah, I never watched the show, and I had dabbled in Super Mario Bros. And Super Mario World, but I had not I didn't like play them for real. Like I think my cousins had the Super Mario collection, all Super Mario All Stars for the Super NES. I think I had played that at like Christmas one time, and that was like the most classic Mario I got before we rented an N64, and my brain melted.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was gonna say I was just looking at this. Apparently, because there's that remastered version coming to Switch, or it's on Switch. I don't know which one. I can't remember. They have changed it back to Peach.
Good.
Not changed it back, but it's Peach again.
Yeah, I am going to say Peach the whole rest of the time because that's who she is to me. This is the only game I know of where it like hammers home that her name is Toadstool that I've ever played. So she's Peach. Even when I go play the old ones, it's your princess parentheses Peach. In my brain. So Peach tells Mario to watch out, and after a few unfruitful rounds of battle, she tells Mario to target the chain holding up Bowser's chandelier. Mario does so, and Bowser falls down, and Mario begins to celebrate, but then Bowser throws a hammer, more stuff from the platformers, because he throws hammers in 7 out of the 8 fights with him in the original. He throws a hammer at Mario's chain, and Mario's chandelier also begins to fall. But Mario is the best at jumping, so he uses Bowser like a Yoshi and jumps on him to jump back up to get up to save Peach. And Bowser falls down. But as Mario is helping Peach get down, the castle begins to shake. And outside, we see a big old star in the sky burst into 7 titular stars as a sword falls down from the clouds. The camera tracks it as it's falling down, and we see that this sword is bigger than Bowser's castle, where it lands in the castle and sticks out of it like a sword in the stone. The stars disperse all around, and the impact shockwave of the sword falling launches Mario onto the world map all the way back into his house, which is a very cute moment. He lands in the green pipe that he has on his roof, because of course he has a green pipe on his roof, and a toad that was coming to visit Mario runs in to check on him, and Mario is stuck hanging on a coat hook along with all the rest of his outfits. The toad says that he's there to gather Peach and take her home since she's running late and she had been last seen hanging out with Mario. Mario jumps off the hook and he talks to Toad. Well, you press the initiate conversation button with Toad, but in this game Mario doesn't speak, and they use that for comedy the entire way through the game, and it's wonderful. Toad asks Mario where Peach is, and he comes to the conclusion that she's gotten kidnapped by Bowser, like she always does, and tells us to go get her real quick. This makes me think that every Mario game is just like an afternoon of Mario's life. Like, Peach has been kidnapped again. Can you go like take care of that? I have something in the oven. Like, we'll be back by dinner time. So we go to leave Mario's house, and on the world map, there's only one path to take that leads up to Bowser's castle. The world map is really, really cute. The paths they're on are reminiscent of Super Mario World, where you just go along the path, and then they have the red circles on the places that you need to go. I think actually only the water levels use this exact aesthetic in Super Mario World, but whatever. It's Mario. It's an abstract world map. It's cute. When Mario gets to Bowser's Keep, he sees the big ass sword and rightfully freaks out. The sword then talks and proclaims that the castle belongs to the Smithy gang now, and he proceeds to destroy the bridge to Bowser's castle, so Mario will have to go the long way around. Mario heads back home, where he tells Toad what happened using sprite-based pantomime, and it is
adorable,
factually hilarious. It is so good.
I love especially because he doesn't just like pantomime, he also turns into other people as part of his conversation.
Yes, it's so good. He uses it, like, completely turns into their sprites. It's so good. Toad understands Mario as if he's speaking words, and he says that they must report the bridge out to the Chancellor of Mushroom Kingdom. On the way out, Toad turns around and runs back in and bumps into Mario, causing him to lose 1 HP. Toad says, "Don't worry, just use the mushroom to heal yourself," and asks if we know how to use items, and he'll give us a tutorial on how to use them if we need it. After the tutorial, Toad remembers why he ran back in. He's being chased by Goombas. He asks us if we know about timed hints and will give us a tutorial if we need it. I accidentally skipped it this time because I'm dumb and I forgot I was playing for a podcast and trying to play it as if it was my first time playing and not as someone who's played a lot of Mario RPGs in which there are timed hits. But so I don't know exactly how the tutorial works, but I know how timed hits work. If you press the A button at the right time in your attack, you'll deal 1.5 times the amount of damage, and if you're frame perfect, you'll deal double damage. If you skip the time hits tutorial, you don't actually fight the Goombas that were chasing Toad. They just hear that you know how to do timed hits, and they run away scared, which I think is cute. But now that we've had our menu and our battle tutorials, we can access the menu for this game, and there are quite a few things in here that I love. Since this game is baby's first RPG, in a whole bunch of places, the explanations of things are in full sentences and not in a sort of jargony shorthand. Like normally, you would have just like EXP 200 next 300 or whatever, but here it says your exp level 0, your next level at 16, and it just says it in a full sentence. And it also is like Mario learns a new technique at level 3 and stuff like that. It is very explanatory in a way that most RPGs would just throw a number at you, which is pretty cool. So with that, we head out into the proper first level of the game, Mushroom Way. In my ancient Paper Mario Sticker Star JRPG Canon entry that's on blog form, which has been archived at rpgbook.club, by the way, if you want to go and check that out, I talked about how an RPG with like video game levels, not RPG levels, was a super great idea. And I was surprised that it had taken that long to happen. But of course, it had already been done by the same developers a decade or more before in Super Mario RPG. Each of the areas has an entry with an exit that you're trying to reach, and it has various platforming and combat challenges in your way without a sense of needing to like treat the place as an actual place that actually exists. It's just a level, and you get through that level and then you're done with it. And on the world map, you don't have to travel back through places. You can, if you've already hit the entrance and the exit, you can just walk over it on the world map. So literally, once you beat level 1, you don't have to go back in unless you're searching for treasure chests or something.
And there are a bunch of hidden things all over this game. Truly, some of the secrets here are so difficult to find, it makes you wonder how anyone ever found them.
Yeah, I was going to get into this a little bit later, but we'll go ahead and do it now. Later we'll get into the Mushroom Kingdom, and I didn't realize this ever, but the Let's Play that I was following for my notes did it. There's a Toad that's escorting you in. If you run faster than him and jump on his head right before you enter the throne room, you can jump up and hit a Kaizo block, because this is Mario, and of course there's Kaizo blocks, and so you hit the Kaizo block, and it has a special item. The item that one has is a frog coin, which I don't know what they do, but it's so cool that they're like secrets and stuff in this game, just like all the times on the playground where he learned about warp zones and hidden one-ups and the minus world and things like that. It's very Mario and very, very cool. So back to level 1. We'll get to the castle in a second. Back in level 1, you fight a few Goombas, you find some chests. They're question mark blocks, of course, and you eventually level up. When you level up, all of your stats increase at predetermined rates, but you also can choose where to place a boost in HP, your physical stats, or your magical stats, which is neat. That means you can pick your playstyle and your focus and build your characters a little more custom, which is kind of needed in a game where there's not a lot of weapons, equipment, and skill loadouts and things like that for your characters. So the second area of this level, there's a platforming challenge of flowers that spin you around and fling your jump extra far. So you kind of have to use those and aim them to make it over ridges to get to the other side of the level. You also can find a whole slew of power-ups and things that are all very Mario-esque. You have items that increase your flower point max. You can find coins. You can find syrups that heal your flower points, mushrooms that heal your HP, and a super mushroom that heals your compartment to full. And I hadn't gone over flower points yet, but they're MP and everything but name. They're how your characters use special skills. Mario's skill is jump, where he jumps on enemies and does mondo damage. But the third section of this level introduces Spinies, which are our first spiked enemies. Spiked enemies are immune to jump damage. They don't hurt you if you jump on them like they do in every other Mario RPG, but they at least don't take any damage, so you have to take them out with punches or something else, which is cool. Also in this section, I hit level 3, where Mario learns Fire Orb, his Fire Flower move from the platformer games, which this game is a super treat for someone who likes Mario stuff. There's so much.
Oh, definitely.
There's so much, like, nowadays obvious references, but it's like, it's really, really cool that they're all there. Another cool thing that happens sometimes is when you defeat an enemy, they either will drop some coins or a special flower. The flower, some of the flowers heal your HP, some of you heal your MP, and a third special one lets you bet on doubling either your coins or your experience for the battle by doing the "which cup is the ball hiding under" trick that we've seen in a million things. At the end of this section, we run into Toad again. He's been getting into various spats of trouble throughout the whole dungeon, but we've run into him being harassed by the Hammer Bros, and we engage them in our first winnable boss fight of the game. Fire Orb is not like other skills. It doesn't have a timed hit, but it has a spam Y as much as you can to cast more orbs and do more damage, which is so you can just mash a lot, which is super neat because you can mash high enough to take out each Hammer Bro in one turn, which I do, and it feels cool, and it feels like I earned it. Toad thanks you for helping him out, and he informs you that the Mushroom Kingdom is just ahead, and that he found this, and he wonders if you can use it, and he gives Mario his hammer like he used in Donkey Kong, because this game is filled with Mario stuff, despite also being filled with weird shit that we'll get to in a little bit. So after we finish this level, we get to Mushroom Kingdom proper, and we follow Toad to the throne room, and that's where you find the Kaizo block, like I had mentioned earlier. When you get to the throne room, Mario tells the story of what happened using pantomime, including turning his sprite into the sprites of Peach and Bowser, and jumping up like above the screen, and all the Toads are reacting. It is absolute wonderful sprite acting. Square was really good at sprite acting on the Super NES, and this is some of the best that I've seen because they let themselves get really silly with it. The Chancellor tells us that we must go the long way around to go and save Peach, and so we leave the castle. Outside, we see a crocodile man being chased by a cloud-shaped frog, and the frog trips and falls. He complains that he'll never get his grandpa's coin back, and he starts to cry, and when he cries, it starts to rain all around him because he's cloud-shaped, but he's a frog, I promise. We get control of Mario, and we walk over to him, and he tells us that the crocodile was way too fast for him. A Toadette nearby is like, "Mario, you should help. Show the frog how strong you are." And then the game just sits there until you press a button. The button is probably the button you were already pressing to advance the text boxes, which is the jump button. And so when you press the jump button, Mario jumps like 10 feet in the air as he normally does. And the frog is like, "Dude, you're the Mario. You're the best at jumping. I'm a frog, even though I look like a cloud, and I can't jump. It's embarrassing. Can you help me catch the crocodile?" And of course we say, "Sure thing." It's so good.
It's very good.
The narrator then says, "The young frog, Malo, who doesn't look at all like a frog, joins Mario in his quest." We can then do some more of the RPG part of Super Mario RPG. We're in a town, after all, so we can talk to a bunch of NPCs. Most of them are hilarious. We can buy equipment from the shop, sleep at an inn, lots of good RPG stuff. Prior to this, it was big on the Super Mario. It was like, what if a Super Mario had RPG elements? But now it's like, oh, this is more of a real RPG. Here's some more RPG type stuff. So it's a good balance of the two. After we shop around and talk around, we make our way to level 2, Bandit's Way, to catch the crocodile. Along the way, we get into some more fights, and now we have 2 party members. Mallow isn't as strong as Mario is, but his magic kicks ass, so he can clear a screen by himself in one round. It's pretty awesome. partway through, we have our second, much more difficult but still safe platforming challenge. There are pairs of blocks that when you stand on one, the other orbits around you. So you have to jump between them over and over to make it to the other side. It's fun and neat, and uses the pseudo 3 dimensions that you have in this game to good effect. You couldn't do this in a side-scrolling Mario game, but you can here. One of those platforming challenges grants you the most Mario item in this game so far, a Power Star. Using the Power Star not only increases your speed and gives you invulnerability like in every other Mario game, it also kills the enemy on screen without having to battle them at all. And you get all the XP you normally would. So you can easily pop the star, run around, clear the screen as much as you can, and probably get an entire level up. It's really cool. The final area of this level is a maze that requires you to sneak up on Croco without him seeing you, and if you catch him a few times, he gives up and has a boss fight with you. He's pretty difficult. He requires you to be on top of managing your flower points and your HP, because he can deal heavy damage to both Mario and Mallow, which could catch you unaware if you're unlucky. After we beat him, we get Mallow's coin back, and we head back to the Mushroom Kingdom, only to find that it's been overrun by Shy Guys. Like, it's dark and gloomy, too. Like, Shy Guys are attacking townspeople left and right, and we can go and save a bunch of townspeople, get into a bunch of optional fights, and get lots of cool rewards and a lot of cute dialogue and cute scenes before we eventually head to the castle. Inside the castle, there are even more Shy Guys, even more toads to save, and even more missable treasures to find, where eventually we make it into the throne room, where we see another big sword guy that is a markedly smaller big sword guy than the other big sword guy. He bounces in to tell us that we can't tell him not to bounce. We're not his real dad, and we get into a boss fight with him. Unlike Croco, he's laughably easy. He dealt like 2 damage to me the entire fight, and Super Jump and Thunderbolt kicked his ass really, really easy. Not a very climactic final boss fight of this section. But after we defeat him, a big floating star floats to us from behind the throne. Mario grabs it and looks happy and feels accomplished, and we see a screen that shows that we need to get 7 stars, and this is only one of them. But Mario and the Toads and Mallow, nobody knows what the heck the star is. They all talk about like, why did we just grab this and what does it mean? And Mallow's like, well, we could go talk to my grandpa at Tadpole Pond. He knows everything, so that's where we can go and check it out. So the screen fades to black, and the narrator says, could Mac, the sword-like monster who crashed into Mushroom Kingdom, have anything to do with the star piece that Mario found? Our heroes move on towards the Caro sewers. Which isn't what anybody said in dialogue, but I'm guessing that Caro sewers are related to the Tadpole Pond, and it's the level we get through on our way to the other level. But it's still funny that the narrator told us something completely different besides what our characters just decided. But we're not going to figure any of that out, because we've now completed the opening section of the game. We have gotten 1 of the 7 titular 7 stars. So let's listen to some more Yoko Shimomura and then talk about our conclusions for the game. All right, so I really like the concept of an RPG with Mario levels. A lot of people hate Sticker Star because it's a RPG with Mario levels that abstracts away the RPG parts, kind of. But that was my favorite thing about Sticker Star once I learned to meet it on its level and treat it as like as not as Paper Mario 4, but as a Paper Mario platformer game. And in that way, it was really fun and really cool, and I really enjoyed it. But I love that here, because you can, like, it is very segmented. Like, you can play a level today, just go play one level, and it'll start and finish and be done, and then you can do the next level tomorrow. And it's really cool, especially being baby's first RPG. Fujioka said in one of the interviews that I read today that Mario games in general are really hard because if you fail, you have to start either the level or the entire world over again, or worse, you run out of lives and you have to start the whole game over again. So you kind of have to master the game to be able to beat it. But this game, which, by the way, I didn't mention it because I didn't die, it's a Dragon Quest. If you die, you go back to the save point, but you have your EXP, so it gets easier and easier the longer you play. But he said that in RPGs, you can just grind and get better. So even if you suck at, like, you don't have skill, you can still win because the numbers will eventually be in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
And also, the reason that it's in this anti-RPG season that we're doing right now is the writing in this game. Both the Japanese original writing and Ted Woolsey's English script are hilarious and do not take themselves seriously at all. And the fact that this game and Earthbound were like the last two Super NES games that came out in the West means basically anyone who couldn't afford a PlayStation yet became a weirdo that went on to make indie RPGs. I guarantee it. Like these two games are just so charming and so well written and funny and like joke first, and it's delightful to play and explore.
Agreed. It's also really fascinating looking at it as just because of the context we talked about to start with. It's hard for me not to look at it a little bit as the precursor to Paper Mario.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really fascinating looking at that, and then also looking at the Mario and Luigi series, another kind of precursor to that Mario RPG series, and seeing like which bits were taken and which bits were left behind by each series, and what stuff like neither of them ended up picking up. And there's a lot there. Like we've made a bunch of references to it, but wow, as much as you've talked about, there's a lot of really Mario stuff in here. Like grabbing the star and just being able to kill the enemies and get the experience that way instead of having to do the battles. The fire flowers, the mushrooms. Like there's so much Mario here, and yet there's also just like none of the enemies. There's Shy Guys. Shy Guys are a thing. There's something kind of like a Koopa later. But
we fought Koopas this week, both the Hammer Bros
you're right.
and the Flying Koopas.
You're right. There were some Paratroopas. That's true. But most of the game, you're fighting weird robots, and then mostly a lot of creatures that are just completely that's a thing that exists apparently. Oh, there's this weird thing in the sewer. It exists. Okay, I suppose. The
screen that has the power star, the things that you kill are not anything normal. They're a weird scraggly looking rat with like one eye. It's very not Mario.
Yeah. And it's just, I don't know, there is a weirdness to this game that made it never quite stick with me, but it is also very funny and very charming. And it definitely felt like they were having a very fun time with it.
Absolutely.
Which is always a good thing to feel when you're playing a game.
It's kind of like how we were talking on the main podcast about Wild Arms 5, and in all of the ways that it's weird and campy and doing things that are actually not good, they're doing it fun, and fun is better than good. And I really like that. I want to say that a lot. I really, really like that. Fun is better than good. And
fun is better than good.
Fun is better than good, and Mario RPG is fun, and so it is much better of an RPG than it actually is. As far as I played, which I got pretty far. I don't remember how far I got back in the day, but like you never have a single complex system or like interesting choice to make. You just kind of go to the shop, get the new thing, put on the good ones, and then keep going. But it's fun, and fun is better than good. Yeah, I think that should be the conclusion. It's just fun is better than good. I think that's the
conclusion of the game. Yeah,
fun is better than good. So that'll do it for this episode. If you would like to sponsor a JRPG Canon episode, you can do so on the web at www.rpgbook.club. It should be an RPG, but the definition of RPG and how canon they should be is up to you. But I should at least be able to spin it as an entry in the JRPG canon. Our old commissioned episodes we used to do before this, someone commissioned us to play SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom. That's not a part of the JRPG canon. No way could I spin it to be so. So nothing that outlandish, but if it's RPG adjacent, go right ahead. Besides commissioning an episode, you can also just make a donation, and any and all donations will help us cover the cost of running the show. If you don't already have a monthly donation and you want to get one, you'll get some extra benefits. You can get access to our bonus feed where this episode was posted. So I guess you're kind of already here, unless in the future this makes it the way to the main feed, in which case there's a lot of stuff on the bonus feed you can go and check out. As well as access polls to decide on what we play next on the main feed. If you donate $5 or more a month, we'll also shout out your name on every episode, just like this. Shoutouts to Cerebral Wind, It's Clear Time, Frost Terror, Dragon Slayer 19, Florist, Kaeldron, Freddie Rodriguez, AA Ron 524, and JFro Prime. And finally, if you love us so much that you want to donate $20 or more a month, you can also get me to say a sentence of your choosing, to either plug something or just to make me say certain words in a certain order. Shoutouts to El Tantavi, who wants you to check out critical-distance.com, an aggregator for games criticism and journalism. Shoutouts to William Taylor, who wants you to check out rpgamer.com, reviews for people like us by people like us. And shoutouts to Vimk, who wants you to play Legend of Legaia. It's an RPG, and this was an RPG, so you'll probably like it if you're here. And then shoutouts to Carr, who is a dentist. So he isn't plugging a website, but rather your own mouth. And he says to brush your teeth twice a day. Most importantly, the time before you go to bed. For the JRPG canon, I have been Sam Allman.
And I'm Trish.
Go play some games.
Do it!